Thomas and Friends, the HiT era rewritten. Diesel's Prevail, Part 2. After Diesel revealed the day he wanted his plan to be done, the day soon came. It was Christmas Day, but it was still too warm for any snow. But things were very frosty. "I feel frozen," said Diesel crossly, and his friends agreed. Molly and Rosie couldn't say the same. Their shed was full of heaters. "Why don't we let the Diesels rest here for a little? They don't get as warm as us," said Molly. "I don't see why not," said Rosie. They whisked around the bend and came to a stop. "Good morning, everyone," said Rosie. "If you guys want to, you can sleep in the shed as there's heaters," said Molly. The Diesels were all fired up inside after hearing that. Molly and Rosie left to help set up Knapford Station. Later that day, Diesel and his friends were conversating. "Okay, we haven't done anything in the last week, so today we have to do some damage," said Diesel sternly. His driver started coughing out smoke. "You all right, sir?" asked Diesel's friend, and his driver nodded. "It's Christmas. Why do we need this plan done today?" "Want to know?" His friends oiled in excitement. Diesel took a deep and long breath and said, "You know Christmas is a jolly time of the year. We can ruin it and make everyone feel bad, and we can fill this island full of Diesels to lead the others to the scrap heap where they belong." "But what does that have to do with Christmas?" "Because that is when they're all together," said Diesel happily. Later that day, Molly and Rosie came back, only to find that Diesel and his friends had left. "Where could they be?" cried Molly. Molly and Rosie didn't know that they were at Knapford Station. All of the decorations were advanced and ready to be put onto Knapford Station. Diesel and his friends took them to a gorge, and they shoved them over a broken track. And they fell. Crash, bang, wallop went the trucks as they plunged into the water. Diesel and his friends watched, and they soon left. That night at Knapford, all the engines gathered around, thinking that the lights and stringers were put up, but they weren't, and the workmen couldn't find the trucks. The Fat Controller arrived in Spencer. "Where are the stringers and streamers, the lights and the ornaments?" asked the Fat Controller sternly. "I don't know," said Rosie. "I delivered them this morning." Diesel paired up. He left his friends at the yard. He blended in with the night, and he couldn't be seen by anyone. His driver lit a match and planted an explosive. It ticked and popped and it crackled. "Run!" cried Edward. "An explosive is next to the station." All the engines got fired up as fast as possible. Thomas reversed. Diesel's driver ran to reverse Diesel, but he slipped. "Stop, Thomas!" cried Diesel, but Thomas wasn't listening, and he knocked his driver and fireman off the platform. They ran over the yard at full speed. "Help!" cried Diesel. "Diesel? Diesel! We're coming!" one of his friends cried, and they raced after him at full speed. They all raced down the main line, with Diesel's friends close behind. They raced around a tight bend and flew under the tunnel and headed straight for Titmuth's sheds. Diesel's friends were right behind them and weren't quick enough, so they gave up. Diesel tried to apply his brakes, but it was no use. They flew into the turntable and rammed into the sheds. The shed's walls and roofs fell down and all the tracks had been crushed. Thomas and Diesel felt terrible. "Thomas, how could you?" said Diesel. "Diesel, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you were there." They both said their apologies to each other, but it was no use, for the Fat Controller had arrived in Spencer, very cross with the both of them. "You two have been caught in the act. What are you doing?" said the Fat Controller. "You, Thomas, what do you think you're doing, going full speed in reverse?" You two have been very bad combined, with both of you making dumb decisions. And where's your guys' drivers?" "They got knocked off of our footplate," they said. Thomas's driver and fireman soon arrived in Molly and Rosie. "Are you okay, Thomas and Diesel?" asked Molly. "Yes," they said in unison. "What were you doing anyway, Diesel?" "I wanted to see the lights." "Edward, we stop." "Sir, we found something," he said unhappily. And they found something indeed. What they found was Diesel's driver laid on the ground with no sign of him breathing. The engines, the Fat Controller, and his friends knew that breaking the news to Diesel would be very, very bad for him. Later that night, Diesel was shunted into a siding at the yard. Because he was so cold and tired, he didn't know what to do. "What happened to my driver?" asked Diesel. He had to get taken in." To jail?" cried Diesel. "No, to the hospital," his friend said. Diesel was devastated. "This is the worst Christmas I've ever had." He's a bad guy, Mr. Diesel, but deep down he's warm-hearted. He'll growl and he'll purr all around the empty yard, said Diesel. He has some friends that'll help him get to his great desire. He's a monster, Mr. Diesel. His heart is small, but there his exhaust so full of spiders, and there's garlic in his soul, Mr. Diesel. It could be worse, but at least he cares a bit. Roll the credits.
A Thomas the Tank Engine fan production.